Welcome to Deep Pockets with Petra Söderling, the show about governments and innovation. With each episode, we bring you a person and a topic that is part of this larger concept of how countries and regions can create economic advantage by investing in innovation. We're now in season 4. Can you believe it? I call this season the Random Rendezvous. After organizing, scripting, interviewing, editing, and marketing 27 episodes, I wanted to give myself a little slack. This season, I will invite interesting people I meet online, in events, or through work. It will be an open mic approach, no scripting, no theme, just me and the guest talking about whatever we feel like for how long we feel like. Our theme song is by New Orleans jazz icon Leroy Jones. I hope you enjoy this and other episodes. "24 years ago, in December 2000, TVO, a Finnish nuclear company, applies to the Finnish cabinet for a decision in principle on a new unit to their existing nuclear power plant. This unit was called Olkiluoto 3. They received the decision in principle in 2002 and a full license to build in 2005. Construction begins the same year, in 2005, and was supposed to last for 5 years. The plant was supposed to generate 1,600 megawatts of energy in 2010. Instead of 5 years, the construction took 18 years. I remember hearing about it in all of the little problems in the news with welding screws and trouble with the workers and all of this over and over and over again. Finnish people were rolling our eyes like this is the worst project we've ever seen. The plant finally began commercial operation in May 2023. Hand in hand with the delays, the budget kept increasing. What was supposed to cost 3 billion euros ended up costing 11 billion euros. Here's a quote from Wikipedia. Quote, Olkiluoto 3 was supposed to be the first reactor of 3+ generation, which would pave the way for a new wave of identical reactors across Europe that were safe, affordable, and delivered on time. The delays and cost overruns have had knock-on effects in other countries. End of quote. It's clear we cannot keep using fossil fuels, and it's clear that wind and solar alone can't fulfill all of the increasing energy needs that we have. So something has to be done. We need innovation. Today, I've invited someone who knows everything about nuclear energy, innovation, and their economic impact. Emma Wong is Principal Leader in Nuclear Engagement, Strategy and Innovation at the Electric Power Research Institute, EPRI. She just finished her secondment as the Senior Nuclear Technology and Innovation Advisor to the OECD's Nuclear Energy Agency in the Division of Nuclear Technology Development and Economics. Welcome to Deep Pockets, Emma.
It's great to be here. Thanks for the invite, Petra.
Let's start by getting you properly introduced. Who is Emma Wong?
That's a really big question you're asking me. So this is a quick download on who I am, and I'm pretty sure everyone can look me up on LinkedIn if they really want to know. But I got my undergraduate degree at the University of Michigan in chemical engineering, which is not nuclear engineering, as everyone would think you would need to be working in nuclear energy. But that's not true. You need all types of engineering. I actually didn't think I was going to work in the energy industry. I thought I was going to use radiation science in the biomedical industry and save, people with radiation that way, with cancer therapies and things like that. I actually went to grad school at the University of California, San Diego, to pursue this and see what I could do in this field. And that field at that time when I was going through school was so new that it would take probably a while for that innovation to catch up and really have a lot of breakthroughs that I wanted to see. So I decided to pivot and actually move into energy. I actually started in working on composite structural batteries, which not a lot of those even exist today. That's another conversation, Petra, we could have. But then I started working into nuclear energy, starting at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in the United States, thinking about, I wanted to have an impact, and where could I have the most impact, but to try to like actually regulate, look at the public health and safety of these reactors and see if it was really worth keeping going in this career. So that's really how I got there.
Okay, so respond to my intro on the struggles in Finland. Do you agree with Wikipedia that the delays and cost increase had a negative effect on other countries' decision to invest in nuclear? And if so, what needs to be done to get these nuclear plants to operate in full capacity? Or is that even a goal? Which is more important, to make most of existing infrastructure or to build new capacity?
It's also a really, really good question and a little bit of a complicated one. I will say that it's not having a negative effect on countries' decisions to invest. It's making them think a little bit more creatively, a little bit more closer about what this impact of this investment will do. Uh, it's interesting because you did quote the Okalogodo 3, and it was started in, they were thinking about it in 2002, then 2005, and then you're like looking at it was supposed to be generating in 2010. Now, it did take 18 years, but big construction projects anywhere around the world take a handful of years to actually implement and do correctly. Now, this is the thing, the nuclear industry always does everything to like the best uh, way possible. It's all the construction is as safe as it can be. And we have to make sure that the public health and safety is paramount. So that means there are double checks, triple checks, and everything almost must be perfect. So when you think about if you want to make a perfect, even if you want to build a house that's completely perfect, it's going to take you a little bit longer than you think. Now, the other thing about Okaloto 3 that people need to consider, and countries are considering this, is that it was the first of a kind reactor that hadn't been built in Finland in a very long time. So when you're building something new, you don't necessarily have the workforce ready to go to do that build as efficiently as possible. So therefore, you would almost expect there to be a little bit of a delay. We actually saw this in the United States when you saw Southern companies Vogtle 3 and 4 being constructed and then operated. Vogtle 3, definitely, if you look into the documentation, took longer than expected. But Vogtle 4 used all the lessons learned, used the experienced workers that were then trained and knew exactly what to do and how to put it together. They actually were able to put it together faster, and they were actually to get it started up faster because they used all those lessons learned. So if you can imagine how, if you were to go to, reactor 5, reactor 10, how much faster it would be. So the first one is always interesting because you almost expect it to take longer, but it's the economies of scale that actually bring you to that really fast construction, really, and that efficiency and economics.
Yeah, while you're speaking, I've had other guests from the space industry on this podcast, and it sounds a little bit similar. That these are big projects, and they take a long time, and safety and security are paramount. It's not about the latest, newest technology; it's about safety and functionality.
Oh, that's great, and that's a great parallel. I mean, a lot of the industries that you probably have on your podcast, we have the same goals, and it's really to protect the people. It's not about being as fast as possible. It's being fast and as safe as possible.
Yeah, great. That is super exciting. Thanks for sharing this. So, as we know, we've tried, and we as the humankind, we've tried to scale down our dependency on fossil fuels because of the climate crisis. But increasingly, especially since 2022, there's been a need to scale down dependency on foreign fossil fuels, especially in Europe, due to geopolitical reasons. But for an ordinary citizen, it feels like it's surprisingly hard. You mentioned battery technologies. They are not where we, or at least where I thought they would be in 2024. I've heard great things about hydrogen for years. It's not here. I don't know anyone who would have a device or a machine that runs on hydrogen, no hydrogen cars to be seen. So, how do you see the future of energy, not just in Europe and in the US, but globally? What needs to be done, and whatever that is it being done?
This is where innovation really is going to be key. Research is happening. You mentioned battery technologies. This is an area that has been researched for so many years. I can't even, I started my career in batteries, and I'm not going to say how long that is, but it is still going on, and it still is facing a lot of the same challenges that it had before. It's looking through for that breakthrough moment where it will change everything. A lot of industries are looking for that breakthrough moment. And with the rise of quantum computing, actually, there may be hope to see that breakthrough material, breakthrough chemistry for batteries. Now, that's not going to happen tomorrow. We're looking at what are the near-term impacts. Yes, hydrogen is making strides as well. I think there is actually a hydrogen car out there now, but it's not widespread. You're
Yeah,
not
I've
going
seen
to
them
see
in
it.
car shows for years, but
Yeah,
none of my neighbors have one.
but until you build that hydrogen fueling infrastructure, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to implement. So, the energy future of today, of the next 5 years, of the next 10 years, when you look at the next 5 years, you're going to have to use existing technologies that exist today. Like, now, that means there are so many innovations you can apply to existing technology. Um, for in nuclear power itself, we have a fleet out there that's already very robust that could use updating, that you could use innovative technologies to make them more efficient. They're already very, very safe. That's why they're allowed by the governments to continue to operate, but they could be more efficient, economic, and they could even be what we call in the nuclear industry power uprated. So they're rated for a power when they're first built, but by efficiencies and by improvements and innovations, they can actually push out more power. And this is not insignificant amounts of power. This is like we talk about small modular reactors. They could put out a small modular reactors output of power by just making innovations to existing power plants. So just think about that. You could just be updating plants or just making them using your innovations with them to then push out more power. So that is one of the priorities, is to have the existing fleet push out more power. And then looking at the rest of the energy future, we need so much energy to just power data centers, to power this AI, to power the EV fleet that's coming to Europe in 2035, right? So when you look at all of those, the existing fleet needs to be there to keep powering everything. Let's squeeze out as much power as we can, power generation out of them as we can, and then you're going to need your power generation toolbox. You mentioned wind, you mentioned solar, geothermal, nuclear. We need all of them to be able to power what we need for tomorrow. So we need to look at, and it's very interesting when you look at economics. Economics will play a role, but wherever this power plant is located will really determine what should be put there. If you're in the desert, are you going to put like a hydro plant in the desert? No. You probably want to put solar. If you're in a place with no wind, you're probably not going to put a wind turbine. So you need to like think about, and this is why this toolbox exists and all these different innovations exist. It's really very environmental, site specific on what you could put there. And then with that, that's really what the future of energy should look like. Let's pick the best technology for the site you have and employ that to really push out the future of what our energy and energy policies could look like.
Yeah, I love how you said we need to use what we have. You know this saying that we tend to overestimate the impact of technology in the short run and underestimate it in the long run. So you're absolutely right. We need to work with what we have and then be smart with the innovation and build for the future. And by the way, you have no idea how happy you made me by mentioning quantum technology. So thank you for
Oh.
that. You just mentioned that you are working with quantum sensors, so I have to hear what this is all about. So tell me.
Oh, Petra, like you're going to love this. So, as I was looking across quantum technologies, and what you don't know is Petra and I have a little bit of a history in the quantum technologies area, and we love talking about this. And then when I mentioned quantum sensors, her like voice lit up.
Yeah.
And actually, what I'm doing here in next week, actually, depending on when you're listening to this, but it is the month of November, I am actually going back to Paris. Yeah, I just came back from Paris. I'm going back to Paris to talk about quantum sensors. When I surveyed the landscape of quantum technologies, quantum sensors jumped out as the technology that is the near term implementable technology. So, in the next 3 to 5 years, I would expect quantum sensors. Actually, I think they could be implemented next year, but there's a little bit few more innovations that need to happen to make them more commercial. To do this, so I'm going to, and this is a sneak peek, although depending on when you get this out, it may have already been presented. We are going to talk to, and it's at the TURDEC seminar that's going to be held at the EDF Saclay site in a little bit south of Paris. I think they still consider that Paris. And we will have no, we won't. We will have a full day devoted to quantum sensor technologies, looking at the future, not in just the nuclear sector, but the space and naval industry will be there talking about it, hoping to have the car industry also there talking about all the different use cases that quantum sensors could have. Now, I'm going to be talking about like the nuclear industry and energy, especially the energy industry, and how not nuclear, but quantum sensors could be applied. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out a challenge of some sorts, but I'm going to outline the parameters if you want to operate in a nuclear power plant and see and what some of our challenges are that cannot be solved with today's technology or could be improved with new technology. And with that, we're hoping that a variety of sensor or even quantum startups will be there and see what they come up with.
Wow.
See if there would be solutions that we could work on together. And then I'm going to take that a little bit wider, hopefully, if it works well. And with that, hopefully push quantum sensors forward. Now, you're probably going to ask me next, like, what is that magic bullet?
Yes,
Right?
exactly. That was my question. So how are you
What
using
is
that
it?
in energy?
Of course, everyone will say, oh, yeah, sensors, predictive maintenance, online monitoring, all of these different things. However, I think because a quantum sensor has the potential to be calibrated and keep a very nice calibration. You calibrate it once, and it's usually pretty good for the life of the sensor. And or maybe our listeners don't know, that the life of a nuclear power plant can be up to 40, 60, 80, maybe beyond. If you had a lifetime sensor that you could put on a power plant that could give you readings without having to be replaced over time, you could put them in areas that are what we would call inaccessible right now. You could get readings whenever you actually needed them, and they would hopefully be lower power needed for these. And if you can imagine what that could do over time to make sure that your nuclear power plant or energy infrastructure is robust for its lifetime, that's what I'm trying to achieve.
That's
And
fantastic.
so we're trying to see what we can do with this to extend and prolong life without being too invasive with the actual operation of these plants. So that's kind of what my goal is. We'll see in the next probably few months, Petra, what will happen. And so that's a little teaser onto what I'm actually doing next week.
Fantastic. Bon voyage back to Paris.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, very, very inspiring. Thank you for the insights and thank you for the foresight. My last question, I always ask my guests this question. What do you get excited about? What are you looking forward to?
Well, so right now, as of the recording, I have just relocated from Paris, the Nuclear Energy Agency, and I have just returned back to the United States. And it is the month of November, depending on when you're listening to it. So I'm actually very excited to have my first American Thanksgiving in the
Yay!
United States.
Cool.
But this is the funny thing about this. I have been traveling so much around the world. I'm actually going to have my Thanksgiving in Toronto.
Okay.
In Canada. You won't even believe it.
Oh, wow.
And it's because I believe in innovation so much. I was discussing and invited to this conference. It's called the Diet Conference, which is funny for American Thanksgiving. You should maybe be on a diet.
Yes.
Well, you should diet before Thanksgiving.
Correct.
But it stands for the Disruptive Innovations and Emerging Technologies Conference, where we're going to have a discussion with regulators about what we call regulatory sandboxing and how we can push innovations through more efficiently through regulatory bodies. I was super excited. I was like, I'm going to postpone my American Thanksgiving to come to Toronto in Canada to talk about innovation more, about how to push it faster and more efficiently through governments, so we can enjoy, our energy and what we need out there. So I will have American Thanksgiving. Don't worry. It's just going to be postponed for a few days.
Fantastic final words. This has been Emma Wong from the Electric Power Research Institute, EPRI. Thank you for coming to Deep Pockets.
This was great. Thanks for inviting me.
You've listened to Deep Pockets with Petra Söderling. To subscribe to content, please go to petrasöderling.com. The wonderful music you heard is by Leroy Jones, an iconic New Orleans Jazz Hall of Fame trumpetist. You can find this and other Leroy Jones tunes at your favorite online or offline music store. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and share our episodes. It means a lot to me and to my guests. Thank you.